Hello, 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 everyone. I am Erica Kessie. I am the Nashville Chapter Startup Grind Director. So happy to be here for another Entrepreneur Experience panel discussion. We have some amazing panelists here. We've been having a wonderful conversation, and we're going to bring it here for you all to hear all about their experience. But let me introduce myself. I am Erica Kessie. I'm a love force with mysterious wisdom, celebrating life. Yes. And I partner with leaders to escape into their vision. What does that look like? They must be healthy and be able to influence in the best ways for those who they serve. And I help them to do that. And so now Tiara, my co-director, will introduce herself.
Yes, I am Tiara Briscoe, and I am a CPA. I am the owner of T Briscoe Consulting, where we provide bookkeeping and consulting services. I am also the co-director of Startup Grind Nashville, and I also serve on the Nashville Business Incubation Center on their junior board as the treasurer. And so now we're going to get into our panelists doing their introduction. Jane, I would like for you to go first.
All right. Hi, I am Jane Pilger. I am the founder of Jane Pilger Coaching, and I specialize in helping women who feel out of control around food, whether that's binge eating or just any experience where you just feel like you can't control yourself. What I do is I help these women understand that they aren't broken, that there's a very good reason why you do what you do with food, and I help them see this through a lens of understanding and compassion so that they can learn how to work with themselves, how to trust themselves, and really work with themselves rather than be at war with themselves.
I like that. I look forward to hearing a little bit more about that during this discussion. All right, LauraAura.
Hey. So I am LauraAura. I'm an alignment coach for female entrepreneurs and the host of the Gutsy podcast. Every day I have the honor and the pleasure of working with driven women who have so much ambition, so many goals, so many things and visions that they see and feel. But man, do they get caught up in their head, right? We all have these thoughts, these feelings, the expectations, the shoulds of the world. And my goal and role is to help you rediscover who you are and give yourself permission to take action on the things that you really want instead of the things that you feel like you should.
That sounds great. I think giving ourselves permission is the key thing here.
Yes.
All right, Chris.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm a digital marketing consultant and coach. I hail from Appleton, Wisconsin. So a ways away, but I'm very happy to be here. And I help small businesses and nonprofits. Specifically, I've found that most of us as entrepreneurs, and I've been guilty of this for years, is we make things more difficult than what they actually are. And so my promise and my tagline on LinkedIn, if you find me there, is I make marketing so easy, it's fun again, so easy, you'll have no excuses. And so just real quick, a lot of times people tell me like, oh, I tried that, didn't work. Oh, I tried this, it didn't work. The answer is they actually do work and these things work really well. And I'd love to be able to help you and tell you more about how you can make these things easy and fun again.
Yes, making marketing fun, that's something I need because it's definitely not fun too. Not at all.
Oh my goodness, you all, that just listening to your introductions, I'm already so impressed to have you here. Thank you so much for going through the process and waiting. You all waited for a while to get here. And I appreciate you all so much for coming and being here. And so the first question is, tell us about your entrepreneur journey. That is the whole reason here. Please be as thorough as possible. And we're going to go back through the same way that we did before. So Jane, go ahead and tell us, and then LauraAura and Chris.
Well, I think what's really interesting for me when I really think back on my entrepreneur journey, when I first started wanting to do this as a business and become an entrepreneur and be a coach and help all of these women, I knew there were so many people that needed help. I knew this was something that I could do. But what I really wish somebody told me was, was how number one, how challenging it would be, but really how challenging it would be emotionally. How kind of, for me, especially talking about this topic of binge eating, feeling out of control around food, the reason I'm so passionate about it is because it is my story. I struggled with binge eating for over 25 years. I went through all the therapies, all the books, the diets, the 2 rounds of intensive outpatient treatment at an eating disorders treatment center. I went through all the things, but I still kept going back to the food. And I would have periods of success and I would start binging again. And as I went through and I went through my journey, I thought, man, if I can ever figure this out, I want to help other people. So I thought I had figured this out. I thought I want to do this. I want to start my business. And when I first started in this journey, and I first started really just barely started talking about my own personal experience, I started binging again. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what was happening. I thought, I can't do this. There's no way that I can help other people if I'm still binging. I had no idea what was going on. And so it was actually pretty amazing. Now that I look back on it, what it was doing is it was revealing to me where I still had work to do, what still wasn't healed for me, that I still needed to learn more about cultivating safety and trust with myself, to learn about my nervous system. And as I did this, I was like, oh, okay, these are kind of like those last few pieces of the puzzle. Then once I felt more safe in my own self and in my body to talk about my experience, then I was able to then kind of like really go into this. Now, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden then the rest of my journey was easy, but I was really surprised, and I really wish somebody would have kind of prepared me for what would come up for me kind of emotionally, and just around all of that. So I think when I think about my journey as an entrepreneur, like that part of it, and I can see so many parallels between the entrepreneurial journey and my journey with food. So with food, I can see so clearly now, I was trying to get it right. I was looking for everybody else to tell me what to do, tell me how to do it. What should I eat? What shouldn't I eat? Oh, you've had success, then you should be able to tell me, if I just eat exactly what you ate, then I should have the body that you have, right? I should not need to eat that much, or whatever the case. And I did the same thing in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. So I'm looking at these people. Well, what did you do? Oh, okay, you followed this process, then I should be able to follow this process, and then I will have success, rather than really getting in tune with my own intuition, what felt right to me. I was looking for other people and trying to do it right. So through the journey, I've really been able, and I think this is a constant work in progress. But what I can see is that it's so much really tuning in to yourself, to your own body, your own intuition, whether we're talking about what to eat or what your next journey or venture or thing to experiment with in your business. It's so similar. You can get inspiration, you can get ideas from other people, but at the end of the day, you really have to connect and listen to what feels right and resonant and true for you.
Wow. I'm loving how you understand the parallel, or you told us the parallel between your story and the entrepreneur experience. And I know that we all probably have something like that that is parallel, which is, and something that I wrote in the chat was, our business can heal us to discover the sore spots that you need to handle before you try to help somebody else with it. And that's amazing. And so the point that you made, you said, really get to know yourself. Like it's all about yourself. You can't ask anybody else. It's about fine tuning and figuring out what's going on in yourself and for yourself, your journey personally and professionally. So thank you so much, Jane. Thank you. LauraAura?
Yeah, so I began my entrepreneurial journey 16 years ago. So I'm a graphic designer by trade. That's where I started my career. And my husband and I decided to start a family, right? And so call it hormones, call it gutsy, call it whatever you will. I knew very quickly that designing ads for the phone book was not where I wanted to be. Now, yeah, we're dating some things there too. But when I was 6.5 months pregnant, I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. There's something bigger calling me. So I quit my job. I started my graphic design business from my couch with my baby in my belly and figured it out along the way. And I think that so often we try to perfect things and need to know the who, the what, the when, the where, and the hows. And, we're just trying to like strategize things to death. And there's a place for strategy, right? But especially in those creative moments and the inception of ideas, it's really important to trust yourself. And I think that that's probably been one of the biggest learning opportunities in my journey. And Jane, I hear you loud and clear because a mentor once told me that we teach what we most need to learn. And so the things that we are teaching are things that we have experienced ourselves. And over the course of 16 years, my career has evolved. I'm focusing more now on coaching, speaking, teaching, and writing. And it's been this journey where I have always unintentionally abandoned myself to please others, to make sure that everyone else in my world is taken care of. And I think that that comes from a lot of different forms and fashions, but especially when you get into the space of as an entrepreneur, where you're wanting to make sure everyone's taken care of and are all the T's crossed and the I's are dotted. And it's like you're just pouring out of yourself, right? You don't just turn off entrepreneurialism, right? It just is. It just is part of you, just like breathing. And I've always, let me rephrase that. In the past, I have abandoned myself to make sure that others were taken care of. Now, that stemmed from childhood trauma and some things that I had not healed myself. And so I got to the point where we filed bankruptcy. I got to the point where we lost clients. I was physically and mentally unwell, just always pouring out. I got to this point where I was like, I wanted to make sure everyone else was so taken care of that I completely forgot to ask myself, what do I want? And so I found myself in the center of this monster that I had allowed. And I think that that's sometimes the hard pill to swallow is we go through these experiences, not then to turn and shame ourselves or to call ourselves names or to look bad on ourselves, but to say, wow, I really allowed that. But what an incredible learning experience. Because every time that I have made a mistake or messed up or gone through something that I would have preferred to not have, it's always been an incredible learning journey for me. It's like those moments give you the opportunity to have more tools in your tool belt to make better decisions, more aligned decisions the next time. And so through this, now I can really look back and see, well, now where I'm at now and what I'm teaching is to help entrepreneurs to ask themselves, what do I want?
Yeah.
I can take care of myself and my needs first. And when I am in alignment, when I am cared for, when I am doing things that I actually truly love, that amplification is endless. That's how I get to help people. Not by going outside of myself, not by making sure everyone's taken care of before my own needs are, but by fully, truly being in alignment with myself. That's where I'm at my most best. And that's where I get to make my best impact. And so this journey has been honestly about coming back to myself and honoring who I am and what I want and what lights me up and what makes me feel like this radiant human being, the sun, right? And then giving myself permission to be that wholeheartedly, unapologetically me. Because when I am me, that is where I make the most impact.
I think it's like super, super important, like that you make that a point too, because a lot of, like you said, we kind of get deep into focusing on how can we help others, but then we neglect ourselves. But I feel like we're more in a time now where we realize that we have to water ourselves before we can water anybody else.
Yes.
I definitely
Yes.
think that's
one important point that I love that you said was I was called for something more. And that is entrepreneurship. That is the epitome of like a true entrepreneur. Not I want to make some money, but I'm called to do this. And I will go through anything to get to it. And part of that is the coming back to myself, because I can't do anything without already giving it to myself, and I'm overflowing onto others and providing in that way. So, oh my goodness, thank you so much, LauraAura, for that. And Chris?
Yeah, well, shit, I wanted to go last, but I mean, following those two ladies, it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, my story's okay, but it's not that good. So my journey really starts for me back in high school. And I was very much an average student at best. And my senior year, I needed some electives because I wanted to go to college. And my guidance counselor said, "Have you ever thought about marketing?" And in my head, I said, "What the hell is marketing?" And she said, "Well, you get to go on a class trip to New York City," which checked the box because small town kid from Wisconsin. Yes, let's do that. You get to work in the school store. You get to be in DECA and compete in the sales competition. I was like, sounds way better than math and English. So yeah, put me in that for sure. So I did it. I did very well. It was one of the first times where I took a class where I thought, wow, I really enjoyed school. I really enjoyed learning. And I started taking some business classes. And then I knew immediately I wanted to study marketing in college, which I did. Worked in and out of a family business for many years, but every job I had was marketing. And like a true entrepreneur, I knew at some point I always wanted to work for myself. I'd get bored with a job after a couple of years. And so where I was going took a lot of different paths. I had started writing a book, I'd started a podcast about different things, and it kept changing. And one of the things that I've learned as I look back now, because I've had 4 different businesses now, I had others in the past that I've sold or closed. And I just realized that don't be too focused on what you want to accomplish in 5 years, because really it's day to day, it's month to month. And I've noticed as I looked back at what I was doing, the first real business I started was a quadricycle, like a party bike. You have many of them that they're now. And at the time, 8 years ago, I thought, well, it'd be really cool to have a business that generates $75,000 in revenue. And if you fast forward 4 or 5 years, married now, 3 kids, have a home, have another business and other responsibilities, that to me, I lost interest in it. And I'd started a party bus company just after that. And I've already sold that. I lost interest in it because now, as you zoom out, you have new goals, you have new responsibilities, you have new interests. And so, one of the things that I've learned is that it's okay to change, it's okay to pivot and evolve. Some people are like me, were very scared of saying, well, that failed. Well, it didn't fail. It actually propelled me into something greater and something bigger, which is what I'm doing now. And the other thing was that I also learned when I start something, I want to finish it. And I had been around the game of golf for a very long time. I'd coached collegiate golf for a couple of years, and I wrote a book that had to do a little bit about golf, but a lot of bit about life. And it's called King of the Mental Swing, How to Win at Golf and Life by Thinking Differently. And I'd been away from the game for so many years, but I went through a very significant health scare. And I just said to myself, like, I would be a fraud if I didn't, just forgive the pun, take a page out of my own book and not finish it. And so one of the things I've tried to do is become okay with pivoting, changing, and more importantly, finishing the things that I start. And if something doesn't align with what I'm doing, it's okay to divest a business or close a business. And it doesn't mean it failed. It's just okay to move on and change. And so now what I'm doing is focusing on writing my second book. I've got a marketing consultancy called Lux Level Media and a business podcast called Hustle Nation Podcast, where my business partner and I, we train C-suite level and high level entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants. It's not something I thought I would have ever done if you would have asked me 5 years ago, but that kind of proves my point that you may not know where you're going to be in 5 years, and that's okay. And be the best version of what you can be today, and take it day by day.
Absolutely amazing. Okay, go ahead, Tiara.
I was just gonna say, I feel like, how real is it that we, like, when you start to do something that you just feel like you're fully confident in, like, oh, this is my area of expertise, but how it can reveal the areas that you have to improve. Like, I think as entrepreneurs, that's one thing that we're not ready for, like, or that you don't expect to happen. It's like, because I know in my field, I feel like I know it theoretically, how to do accounting and things like that, but it also reveals like some areas where I could improve,
Definitely. And I love that, to go back to what you said, take it day by day. If we do that, sometimes I have to take it hour by hour, just to check
True.
in with myself. Am I satisfied? And then take it. And I love that, Chris, because I think that, people do. It's a lot of people that are out saying, make sure you plan out 5 years from now where you're going to be, what you're going to do, where you're going to go, who you're going to be with. You're like, can I just make it to lunch?
Exactly.
I just want to eat.
If you have a spouse and kids in sports, you get it. One thing at a time.
Right. Thank you all so much for sharing, and the transparency is so great. Thank you so much for that. Yes. And so now we have our second question, Tiara.
Yeah. So, and now we're going to just dig a little bit deeper. Let's talk about how being an entrepreneur has affected you, like emotionally, physically, mentally. And we're going to go in reverse order. So we'll start with Chris and then end with Jane.
Yeah. So it's taught me a lot about life and family and relationships. And I think along the journey, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've screwed up a ton of things. And as I look back, whether it be even youth sports, I've learned more from the failures than I have from the successes. And I know that gets said a lot, whether it be imposter syndrome. And Laura, I don't know if you said it, but the more I talk about things, whether it be on my podcast or I write about them for LinkedIn or my newsletter, the more I learn. And one of them was, I had found out that I go through these bouts, as I know we all do, of imposter syndrome. And people look at me funny when I say that, like, oh yeah, it's just imposter syndrome. Like, you have imposter syndrome? I was like, yeah, occasionally, but it's temporary. And I think it's actually a very healthy thing, as I've talked to some other people about it. And why I say it's healthy is because if you don't have imposter syndrome, I've found that those people, especially men, tend to be very arrogant and overconfident. And while I am a fairly confident person, I take those moments of doubt, that imposter syndrome, and I squash it like a bug, because yes, we are in 100% control of how we think. But as soon as that thought enters, you have a couple of moments to say, you know what, I am good enough, right? I can do this. I do believe in myself. I am capable. And so I oftentimes use that self-talk to push that in the rearview mirror and continue to move on, because I found, and this is another thing that I want to talk about briefly, is that I interviewed for a job in Detroit when I lived there, went to school there, and for Quicken Loans. And they had something called an ISM, which is part of their core values and part of their company culture. And the one that stuck out, and I talk about this a lot, was they say good is good enough. And as I got to talking with a friend who works there, they said, we don't believe in perfect. And it just struck a chord forever in my life, because I used to be the person that would spend hours more than what was needed to try to perfect something. And if you do that with a piece of art, sometimes you ruin it, right? Mm-hmm. And so we continue to hammer away. And as I zoom out, I'm going to switch gears, but I'm going to come back for a moment. I've struggled for a long time on how to price my services. And I'm just getting to the point, and I'm 42 years old, where I'm comfortable charging $150 an hour. And some people tell me it should be double that, but I digress. And so when you start to put a real value and you say, look, I am worth this per hour for this project or for speaking or whatever it might be, and you believe in that, then you can look back and say, you know what, like I'm not gonna waste my time with that. I'm gonna say that this is very good. Could it be a little bit better? Maybe, but more important, does it add value? So if it's social media or a blog post or for a book, there's a reason why the best books in the world have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 revisions, right? And so I just learned that I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nobody's even looking for perfect. Um, I've even told my wife that. I'm like, I don't want perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. Be you, right? I love you for you. I hope she loves me for me too, as imperfect as I am. But I really think once you really understand that and you believe it too, because you have to believe it. You can't just say it. I think you'll start to see a much higher level of productivity. And I've been able to increase my level of productivity so much more because I look back at the end of every year and I say, fell short. I didn't get everything I wanted to do, and I wanted to write that book. I wanted to do that thing, and it never happened. And so I realized that I have to be okay with just putting my best foot forward and be okay with my best work, and that I can continually get better. And so there's a lot of things I could talk about, but for sake of time, that's one thing I think is really important.
Okay, I
Oh,
just have to say really quick, I'm so happy that you brought up money because a lot of people don't want to talk about money. Listen,
Yeah.
I just want to let everybody know on here right now, I like talking about money and I like talking about sex, okay?
Okay.
Anyway, I'm so happy you brought that up because a lot of people have a problem with pricing themselves. But it's an issue. And so I just
Yeah.
want to just note that we have financial note that happens on the third Tuesday of every month with Startup Grind, where we have people who are in the financial industry come in and have a conversation about finances. And they're also entrepreneurs. And we talk about pricing and those kind of things. We also have the community note and also the mental note on the first Tuesdays of the month. Just to let you all know what's going on at Startup Grind Nashville chapter.
Erica, can I say one more thing on that very
Of
quickly?
course.
So I remember when I was leaving a marketing agency and I was going out on my own, I talked to a couple friends who I knew that they were leaders in their company, and their company had hired consultants in the past. And I told them what I was thinking about pricing myself on. And truly, I was worrying about it. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't calculating kind of what the outcome would be. I just was thinking about, what are people going to reject? What are they going to think? What are they going to say? Which is the wrong way to do it. And I told him, I said, well, I'm thinking like maybe $75 an hour. And he said, okay, so if you work X number of hours a week in the first year, which by the way, in your first year, you're never going to be full, right? He said, so you're leaving your job to make the same amount of money? And I was like, oh shit. Yeah. So you really have to think about it. You have to put pen to paper and calculate different variations of that. And damn it, be confident in yourself, because people will pay you $100 an hour and maybe even more, depending on your industry and what you do. Things are expensive, right? Because you're good at it, and people want to hire someone else who's good at that thing. And so warrants a lot longer conversation, but start there. Start by believing in yourself, because people want to work. They don't care about the price as much. They want to work with someone who's the best, someone who's the most confident, who can help them. And I'd rather pay a little bit more if I know my Facebook ads are going to get a better result, or if I know my bookkeeper can help me save some money, right? That's what it's all about.
love it. All right, LauraAura.
All right. So being an entrepreneur has helped me heal my shit. Okay, let's just start with that. I will also say that I did not start a business to be like, you know what I want to do? I want to go on a self healing journey, right? I wasn't even thinking about that. And I think a common misconception is that you think that because you start a business that your human shit is not going to come along with you, and that could not be further from the truth. If anything, it gets put on a stage, amplified, and thrown out into the world, right? And so entrepreneurship has really helped me to peel back the layers. And I know that doesn't really sound sexy or like I want to run into the fire, but it has also given me my greatest, deepest connection and joy at the same time because of that, right? So the challenges, the past, the thoughts, beliefs, and expectations from your life, they show up in your business. They show up in the way that you're working with people. They show up in the way that you work, the way that you manage your time, the way you manage your money, and the old stories, right? The pre-programmed stuff that lives in your subconscious, it comes along with you. And so in my experience, my deep rooted abandonment challenges from childhood trauma came along with me. My finance story, we're talking about money, right? My finance story came along with me. I grew up in a household where money was the root of all evil. Money made you feel like you were better than somebody else. Like, I mean, we could write a whole book on it, right? And so I came into my entrepreneurial journey with that story playing. And what did that look like? It looked like undercharging. It looked
Mhm.
like not collecting things when they were due. It looked like not looking at and having a relationship with money, right? Like all of these things. When I talked about the people pleasing, I was so worried about people leaving that I left myself, right? It's something I say on my podcast and on TikTok often that gets people real wound up, I think in the best of ways, is the thing that you want the most is often behind the thing that you resist the most. And if we can start, if we, there you go. Yep. See, that's the same look. It's one of those sayings and it's got such depth to it that it like you'll think about it 3 days from now and you'll be like, damn it, Laura, like, but good, right? Because it gets you thinking. It gets you realizing where you are not being yourself, where you are not honoring your wants and your desires. And I think Jane said it earlier, where do I still need to heal? Where are there parts of me? Where is there a part of my story that needs my attention right now that I can learn and grow from? And had I not been an entrepreneur, I'm sure it would have came out in a different way, but this was my path, and this was the way that I was supposed to come back into myself and to reignite my relationship with my inner child. On my desk behind me, I don't know if you can see her, but there's a picture of my inner child on my desk that I keep her with me at all times. LauraAura is an integration of the childhood self, my present day self, and my higher self. LauraAura is the embodiment of all of me. And so entrepreneurship, this kind of makes me weepy to say this business has helped me find myself again. It's
Mhm.
helped me really learn who I am at my core before the world told me what I should be. And that is priceless. You can't put a number on that, right? But it's about being faced with these challenges and leaning into them, right? To me, that's what a huge part of what gutsy is and what it's all about. It's leaning in. What can I learn? There is this higher calling. There is this higher being. There is this little girl inside of me. What are all these things and people saying? I don't know, but I'm willing to fucking find out. And when you lean into it, you really can go on this self development, reconnective journey that opens doors you couldn't even imagine in your wildest dreams.
That was a message there. Oh my goodness.
Okay. I just want to say gratitude right now already. I know Jane is gonna come and give us some more fire, but gratitude just feel so much gratitude right now for you all coming and being so transparent. And okay, you are a licensed professional counselor's dream to hear these, because a lot of times this is not what people are talking about. This is not entrepreneurship. We're talking this right now. This is not entrepreneurship for everybody else and what they talk about. They're not talking about this for real, like this purification process. Woo!
Well,
Okay.
we it's quick to go to the tactics and the strategies and the numbers and the business guidelines and the business plans and all that stuff. And again, everything plays a part and a role at the right time. But we can't ignore the fact that we are human beings in this business.
It's true.
And that as a human being, we have thoughts and feelings and ideas and backstories and desires and just all of this stuff that makes us who we are. And when we combined our full self with then those tactics and strategies and methods, my friend, you can take your business wherever you want to go.
I always say, I'm glad you mentioned being human beings. I always say we're not a human doing, we are a human being. We have to remember that. Also, to make sure that you get back to whenever there's any kind of trigger trauma that's popping up in your business, in yourself as a human, to step back and align yourself, alignment coach, but I say get into yourself, get back to yourself, into your coping, and then from a centered place, make decisions. Because you're not making the right decisions for your business that's going to take you to your vision if you're traumatized and triggered and up in uproar, all the trauma responses that's happening. It's just amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, Jane.
Wow. Well, I'm just like sitting here, just like, this is amazing. This is why I love entrepreneurs. It's like, I think any entrepreneur who has been doing this for a while has had to go through the fire and has had to do the investigation and the digging and the peeling back of the layers. And so when we can have these conversations, it's just like, just so incredible. So I am just loving being a part of this conversation. And there are two kind of, I think, key pieces of what both Chris and LauraAura were saying that, really, I think connect for me. And that is just the conversation around perfection. There is such a connection between perfectionism and feeling out of control around food. Because what happens is we're trying to control, we're trying to make things perfect, we're trying to do things just right, as if there is only one right way to do or to eat or to control our bodies or to control what we're eating. And in doing that, in that perfectionistic, very high, unrealistic standards that were created by whomever else out there, it's like there's such a connection between that and feeling out of control around food. And then you bring those patterns with you anywhere else and into anything. And so, I think for me, so much of it has been seeing my old perfectionistic tendencies, seeing how they played such a part in all of my eating, and how they try to creep in the entrepreneurial part. And where it's like really being able to just to see and to notice and to be able to adjust and to pivot and to see that as, I used to think the attempt to be perfect or the attempt to set and meet these really high standards for myself, I used to think it was really protective. And now I can see, oh no, actually, that's not protective at all. Perfectionists actually have more stress and they achieve less and they have more stress than regular just high achievers. So really being able to see that, it's like, oh, that's actually not so appealing after all. I love what Chris said. Nobody's actually looking for perfect. When I show my not perfect self and I show my very human self, that's when people say, "Oh, you get it. You get it. You get me. You've been there." It's not when I show the very perfectly polished vision that isn't even reality. So that has been huge for me, is that it's in those moments of not perfect and vulnerability and the messiness, that's where actually that connection comes. And I think also with LauraAura, I love she was talking about the inner child. That has been so much work for me. I actually have, as she was talking, I was looking over here at a picture of me and my sister on a bicycle, and it's when I basically I am now I'm also a competitive triathlete, and I have this picture of us on a bicycle, and it really just reminds me of developing that love for the bicycle, of that little girl. I have pictures of her pretty much all over the place to really remind me to connect with her. She's there, she's inside of me. She learned at a very young age to use food to escape or to deal with emotions. And so if she's still there, she still needs to know that everything is okay and to be responded to in ways that maybe she wasn't responded to earlier. So that has been a huge thing for me. I think it's really overall When I sum the work that I do with people down to one word, it all comes down to connection. Is really connecting. It's like LauraAura was saying, like she abandoned herself. She went away from herself. It's what we do. We disconnect, right? So it's coming back. It's connecting with what is true for you, connecting with your body, with your your vision, with what you really want, with what resonates for you. It's like all comes back to that connection and trusting I'm going to guide myself. I will be guided by, for me, I do believe that God has called me into this role. I trust myself. I trust God to guide me, and in that trust, it's like I don't have to be in control if I'm really living in trust of myself, trust that God has a plan for me. It's like I can really just let go and not be holding on so tightly. And it's that holding on so tightly that keeps us doing the very thing that we don't really want to be doing anymore.
Wow. Absolutely amazing. Okay, thank you so much, you all. And so let's wrap up with closing remarks and how people can reach you. I see that you all are putting information in the chat right now. I'll make sure that I share that with everyone who actually is going to get the replay and who registered. We have a lot of registrants. So I'll make sure that they get that. And also, we'll put it out on social media. Thank you so much. We'll just go around. We'll just go back around. Chris, LauraAura, Jane, and you all do your closing remark and also how people can reach you.
I think you're on mute, Chris.
Chris, you're muted.
Yeah, so much for looking like a professional. See, not perfect. I just wanted to say thank you, though, for having me, ladies. It was a great conversation. I think a lot of our views are aligned, but all slightly different. And that's what makes entrepreneurship great. And I'm going to end on these remarks. So, oftentimes, when I talk about what I help my clients with, I often say that success is like a recipe. So, if you travel the world and you were going to make a pot of chili, you would literally get millions of variations. And it could be based on what you have in the proverbial pantry, could be who you're cooking for, could be where you come from, could be maybe your taste preferences. And God forbid we debate, beans or no beans, cheese or no cheese. You get the point. And so if you omit a couple of ingredients, you're not going to get the right outcome. So oftentimes when I'm working with my clients, strategy, I interchange the word strategy and recipe quite frequently. Just like in golf, tennis, football, coaching, whatever, there's a lot of different ways to do it successfully. Just like all these recipes are different, it's based on what you're trying to accomplish. And so as you zoom out from this conversation today, take a couple of things and add that to your recipe based on if it fits or not. Does it fit the taste profile? Does it fit what you want to accomplish? Does it fit who you're cooking for? And I know I use a lot of these different analogies, but ultimately, it's no different than having the spokes of a bicycle wheel. You have to have X number of spokes for that wheel to be balanced and strong. And so if we're looking at chili, just keep salting and peppering in these different ingredients to get the outcome you want, because it's ongoing, right? It's every time you make it, it's going to come out a little bit different, and that's okay. But take action and be strategic with that action. And so if you liked anything I had to say today, you can find me online on my website, which is iamchrisburns.com. My favorite social media platform right now is LinkedIn. So it's /Chris B. Burns, 2 B's in the middle. Or you can check out my podcast. That's all over the internet, including YouTube and TikTok. That is hustlenationpodcast.com. And just thank you for your ears today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, some parting words today. I always like to intuitively answer this question depending on the room that I'm in. And so I feel like maybe there's somebody that's listening to this today that doesn't need permission, but maybe needs to hear it. That you're allowed to want what you want. that it's more than okay. In fact, it's incredibly necessary for you to take an inventory of your services, of your business, of your relationships, of your time, of your energy, and say, does this fit what I want? And if I don't know what I want, am I willing to go on a journey to find out? And that whatever that answer is, if it lights you up, if it brings peace to your world, if it makes a positive impact in the bigger world around you, then my friend, it's full steam ahead. You don't need anyone else's permission to go forth. So if any of my words have resonated and you want to connect on a deeper level, I play the most on TikTok and Facebook. I'm at that LauraAura. You can also subscribe to the Gutsy podcast. It's on all the platforms, but it's also at thegutsypodcast.com. And if you want to learn more about how I might be able to support you on a deeper level, you can go to LauraAura.com.
Thank you.
So good. So I want to, I guess, just tag on what LauraAura said, which is also giving you permission to be human and permission to be messy and permission to not have the answers and to just be willing to experiment and to figure it out and to be willing to fail and to be willing to know that through your failures, you really will gain the knowledge and the insights that you need. Your failures will be the key to wherever you're going. You will build that strength and that resilience. So just that willingness to be human, permission to want what you want and permission to be human. Add that to your recipe and your entrepreneurial experience will be exactly what is meant for you, not what anybody else's experience is or comparing to anything else, what your experience is meant for you. We are all on our own journey, but what's so amazing is we can be on this journey together with other entrepreneurs who get what we're doing. So if you have or know anybody who feels out of control with food sometimes and feels like they're broken and just wants to understand maybe from a different lens or a different perspective, you can check me out at I'm the host of the Binge Breakthrough podcast. And you can also find my website at janepilger.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, in both cases at Jane Pilger.
Thank you, Jane. And I would just like to say this entire discussion just felt like a hug to me. And I hope that all of our viewers are able to feel and experience like the warmth that all of y'all were able to bring today in this panel discussion. So I think that's what we try to promote. We want people to feel comfortable. We want people to open up and expose like the deeper feelings that they have that are associated with being an entrepreneur. So I do thank you all for that today. And for me, as far as my business, so I do provide bookkeeping and consulting services. And I try to tell people all the time, I like to help you focus. I like to focus on the finance so you can focus on operating and other aspects of your business. So Erica likes to say all the time, like, I feel I want to be a safe person for people, so that's what I provide. I'm always open and honest, and I treat people how I would want to be treated, is even in my business. And so if you're looking for me, I am on TikTok and on Instagram at T Briscoe Consulting. And then I also put my booking link in the chat.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Once again, like Tiara said, it is about being safe. There are so many entrepreneurs who are going and interacting with experts, consultants, and people doing consultations, and they're walking away with no return on their investment. And so I myself building out a Facebook group called Plan to Thrive. So I'm looking for safe experts, and I have deemed Tiara to be safe because I only interact with superstars and superheroes who are safe. And when I say safe, I mean I have vetted them to see that they actually offer and give what they need to give, and that they're doing their own self-work to be the best version of themselves. So that's what I'm all about. Leaders that do no harm. I am Erica Kessie. I am the Leaders Healer, and you all can reach me by going to yourgoalconcierge.com and learning about all of the things regarding my incubator, as well as if you're interested in being one of those safe experts, I will train you to make sure that you are that. You can reach me at info@yourgoalconcierge.com. Thank you so much, you all. And with regarding Startup Grind, we have Tuesday programming every Tuesday because we want to make sure people know that if nowhere else you can come here on Tuesday, and we will be here offering something. We have the mental note the first week, the second week is community note, third week is financial note, and the last week of the month we do the entrepreneur experience. It has been a hit, and thank you so much, you all, for coming. And it's been absolutely breathtaking to experience you all today. You all have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.